Hello, everyone, and welcome. Very excited to be able to hear from our outstanding students and hear about their experiences. Just want to briefly say hello. Many of you might have met me. I'm Matthew Seeley, one of the career consultants in the Tepper School of Business, the Career and Professional Development Center. And there's my colleague, Jen. Jen, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I am the other career consultant in the Tepper School of Business for our undergraduate students.
Thanks so much. So in terms of structure, just want to give you some overviews and leave lots of time to hear first and foremost from our panelists. So the purpose of the internship showcase is one, to explore various job functions, industries, and career opportunities, and also to learn how to get an internship in your area of interest. Everything from submitting your application to actually getting an offer. And the panelists that are with us today were chosen and invited by us to share their unique experiences in their internships, as well as offer some tips and strategies and answer some questions you might have as you seek to obtain your own. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists. We have Lynn. Lynn is formerly a wealth management intern at PNC Asset Management Group. She's a junior at Tepper Business Administration. We also have Vinay, who was at Bank of America as an analyst, a senior at Tepper in Business Administration and also Statistics. We also welcome Tomi, who was at the National Football League, their media division business operations team, and was a digital business operations intern. She's a Tepper senior in business administration. And then we also have Sonali joining us, who is at MUFG, the Securitized Products Group, Asset-Backed Securities. She was an investment banking summer analyst, a senior at Tepper Business Administration. So welcome to all of our panelists. We're really excited to hear from you. In terms of structure, each panelist will present for a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. So you can have your questions posted in the chat so we can collect them. Jen and I will be checking through that, and then we'll address them after the presentations are over. We'll get through as many as we can because I'm sure you're excited to hear from them. And then just for the audience too, I know that Zoom can be fiddly sometimes. Please try to make sure that you're on mute for a while, and then we will get those mics opened up and also have questions at the very end, as I said. So without further ado, we're going to go in the order that they were given here in our presentation slides. So Lynn, we're excited to hear from you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. So as Matt mentioned, I am a junior studying business administration, concentrating in finance, and I also have an additional major in decision science, which is really exciting. And I worked at PNC Bank this past summer. It was based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and has a really close relationship with CMU, which I really liked, but I was in the Cleveland market in Ohio, although we were working virtually, so I was still back at home in California. PNC has their 6 corporate values, which really intrigued me about the bank. Some of them include teamwork and diversity, which all I think are especially important when you're working in an industry as people focused as wealth management. So I was a wealth management intern. I got to rotate among 6 divisions that they had. I particularly loved the investment side of things. So I got the chance to perform investment research for different clients and network with different advisors, not only within the Cleveland branch, but also other branches as well. In terms of recruitment, I actually got the opportunity to attend the Women in Business conference that PNC hosted in Pittsburgh at their headquarters in 2019. And there I met a lot of incredible women and got to do a bunch of different networking. They had a Super Day interview for all the juniors that were there, but at the time I was just a sophomore. But since I got the chance to meet a bunch of people, I asked for an interview and they gave me one at their Super Day. And I got the call back a couple of days later that I got the offer. Could you go ahead and go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So during my time at PNC, we had a couple different structured projects that we work on, one of which was included Venture Vault. That was when a team of 5 from different divisions within the bank came together to come up with an innovative solution that really helped encourage college students to bank at PNC. So it's interesting because we were all college students, and it was really fun to work together with people outside of your specific division and meet other people with that too. We all also had our capstone project. So for wealth management specifically, it was a client advisor simulation with other wealth management interns and management. So essentially, each one of us would take on the role of one of these 6 advisors in one of these typical meetings that you would have, and we role played in a particular situation with these upper level management that came in and sat in and talked to us about it, which was really cool. And at the end, we got feedback from them, seeing how they would have done things in a particular situation, ways we could improve, or things we did well. For tools and different skills, I would say the basics of Excel, PowerPoint would be really important. At PNC, we use a specific tool called Edge, which helped us look through the database of clients that we had. And also there are soft skills that are equally as important, such as networking, adaptation, considering this was a virtual internship that we had, and also I'd say feeling comfortable reaching out and learning. So on that note, on the next slide, some of the advice that I would have is not being afraid to reach out. Everyone at PNC, and I'm sure that everyone at all the other companies, the other seniors to be able to talk about, are so welcoming and always welcome to chat. I'd also say if there's something that you're interested in, don't be afraid to ask someone to introduce it. You should never feel stuck in one project or just in one position. You can always ask for more opportunities and the chances to explore more, since this is an internship and you should have the opportunity to do that. Also, make as many strong connections as you can. I was fortunate enough to have the chance to meet so many different people through CMU, and I met and kept up those connections that CMU had with PNC, which was really exciting. As for different classes, I would say that business communications and business presentations, which are 2 of the required courses in the TEPR curriculum, are extremely helpful. I may be a bit biased towards business communications since I am a TA for that, and I'm sure Sonali would feel the same way about it too. But that's definitely helped me, especially in the virtual format when we're sending out emails all the time and giving out presentations to as many people as we need to talk to. But that was my experience. Something else that's not on the slide is that I'm always here as a resource too. So if anyone has any questions, you can ask at the end or feel free to reach out anytime to me.
Great, thank you so much, Lynn. And please do feel free to use the chat feature. We'll collect questions and follow up on some of these great points. Thanks so much. All right, Tori, welcome.
All right, thank you, Matthew. So again, my name is Tori and I'm a senior double majoring in business administration and statistics. And my main career interests are in business analytics and consulting. So during my first 3 years of college, I honestly had no clue what I really wanted to do. And I found that internships were a really good way to kind of like test out a job, a company, or an industry. And it really helped me figure out how to narrow down what I was looking for in terms of a future job. I started out by doing a wealth management summer internship with Morgan Stanley, then a business operations internship at a tech startup, and also various local marketing and consulting internships during the school year. Last summer, I was a digital business operations intern at the NFL, which is the experience that I'll be focusing on today. And even though all of my past experiences have been kind of all over the place in terms of both the role and the industry, these internships have really helped me figure out what I actually want to do. And after graduation, I'll be working as a strategy analyst at Deloitte. So that's a little bit of information about my background, and now I'll dive a little bit deeper into my NFL experience. At the NFL, I worked in their media and digital business, which is the part of the NFL that focuses on all of their online or mobile products, which includes like mobile apps, online videos, marketing materials, and more. Within NFL media, I was on the business operations team, which focused on things like vendor contracts, project management, and resource allocation. The recruitment process for this role was an online application, then a one-way HireVue interview, followed by 2 video interviews. The project that I was assigned to was to prototype an interactive dashboard to display analyses of the NFL spend and P&L data to be used by NFL executives to optimize the spending on their projects. Basically, the problem was that the NFL had all of their spend and revenue data, but no system of being able to look at all of it as one consolidated big picture. Each department was running their own analyses, but it was hard for the executives to get a good idea of how NFL media was running as a whole. Since a lot of the data used to create this dashboard is confidential, I unfortunately can't show it to you guys and demonstrate how it works, but I can talk generally about the process. To create this dashboard, I mainly used Power BI and R, and by the end of the internship, I was able to show a preliminary prototype of the dashboard with data only from NFL media, with only a select few use cases in terms of the user being able to explore the data in a way to answer specific questions that they have. Since COVID had shortened my internship to just a 4-week program, I also included a write-up in my final deliverable of what the future scope of this prototype could look like for NFL staff to continue working on after the summer. Some of the things included automation and expanding the data to include all leak data and not just from media. On this next slide, I have some advice for anyone that's interested in this kind of role. For those of you interested in the NFL, typically their applications are due in the fall and interviews happen during winter, but this year everything was pushed back a little, so their applications are still open. If you're interested, all their intern openings are listed on the NFL Careers website. During your interview, make sure you're ready to talk about how you can uniquely benefit them and what value you can provide to their team. At the NFL, you'll be doing actual work with real stakeholders, so they're looking for people that are actually interested in making an impact. And I know the sports and entertainment industry isn't for everyone, so for those of you that are interested in business intelligence roles in general, I would recommend learning Tableau, Power BI, R, SQL, and Excel, which are all skills I've used heavily in these roles. And some CMU classes that I found to be really useful for this are MDM, or Modern Data Management, which is a business course, and Statistical Computing. That's all I have for now. I hope this is helpful, and I'm glad to answer any questions during the Q&A session, or like Lynn said, feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Great. Thanks so much, Tori. Really appreciate your perspective and sharing about your journey. So I will pass it on off to you, Sonali, and welcome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt. So hi, everyone. As Matt said, I'm a senior at Carnegie Mellon studying business administration, and I have minors in finance and business tech, concentrations in finance and business tech, as well as a minor in global systems and management. This past summer, I interned at MUFG through their corporate investment banking and markets program, and I was placed in the securitized products group doing asset-backed securities, mostly on the non-flow side. I was also lucky to have received and accepted a full-time return offer in the same group through their MUFG analyst program. And the reason I chose MUFG was really because of the personable recruitment process that I had and the support and encouragement that I received from members of the CMU recruiting team throughout the process. That is, even though they are a global bank and they're the 5th largest financial institution, they have a boutique bank feel. In addition, this translated through the program because their flat structure allowed for an unmatched exposure to senior leaders. And then finally, I chose MUFG because they truly commit to developing young talent, and that's proven through their strong intern conversion history. In fact, out of the 28 interns in my analyst cohort, 24 of us are lucky to be coming back this coming summer in New York. Now, on to the next slide. I'll talk a bit more about what the actual internship was like and what that program structure was. Of course, because of COVID, things were a little bit different for me. And so instead of a 10-week in-person internship in New York, my summer analyst cohort had an 8-week remote internship experience. The first 2 weeks of our program were primarily focused on HR onboarding and then training sessions. The comprehensive training program that we went through was primarily led by senior executives at the bank, and they went over all of the key topics and foundational skills that we would need to get us through the internship program. We were also lucky to have gotten a financial modeling training course through Training the Street, and that was a 2-day Excel course, which was especially helpful for those of us who maybe hadn't used Excel too much recently, just because we went over all of the keyboard shortcuts and how to do actual modeling and building those sheets on our own. In addition to that, each intern in the program was assigned to a mentor in their group, and this person was just there to help get them through the program and help support them through their work and offer any advice. This was usually a junior level member of the team, so an analyst or associate. And then we also got a day-to-day manager who we would report to daily, and they assigned us with work, gave us general advice, and then they did our performance evaluations throughout the summer. Throughout the internship program, we also got to attend weekly speaker series, and this was a great opportunity for us to learn about different areas of the bank, just because there are so many different groups, and this allowed us to explore potential interests in other groups. For example, some of my friends in the program found this especially helpful because they knew that they wanted to try being in a different group for when they came back full-time, and so using these speaker series really allowed them to differentiate between the different groups and learn where their interests might lie. In addition, we were encouraged to network and initiate virtual coffee chats, not just with junior bankers, but with senior executives as well. Then, in addition to our daily work, we had a couple projects through the actual internship program itself. So we had one short individual presentation that we did to senior management on a behavioral question, and this was meant to teach us how to sell ourselves to an audience and how to practice general communication and presentation skills. In addition to that, we had a longer 20 to 30-minute mock team pitch, and we worked with other interns in our group to pitch to a client, just like real life bankers do in their everyday jobs. In addition to that, because I was in the securitized products group, I had kind of a special individual project that my desk had me do, and that was a 20-minute individual research project and presentation that I had to give to the entire group. And for securitized products specifically, that's kind of the big project that they use in evaluating you when doing your final summer performance review. In terms of, I guess, what a typical day looks like, it is hard to say just because banking, things move so fast, and every day there are so many different types of tasks you could be involved with. But I would say that if I had to generalize, most of the work that I did was research-based, and I'd use Bloomberg, Excel, PowerPoint, sometimes Word, and much of the work that I did was synthesizing information in a clean and presentable way. So again, being able to communicate and present information in an easy to understand way was a really important skill to have. In addition to that, the soft skills that I would highlight are time management and communication. So going into the internship, even though I didn't know too much about securitization, I made sure to be proactive and ask good questions, because that showed the team that I was engaged and willing to learn. They weren't necessarily looking for someone who knew all of the answers or who knew everything about this niche product, but they were just looking for someone with a good attitude and work ethic who's ready to learn and put in the effort. And then I guess now that I've kind of talked you through what my experience was like, I can walk you through what our recruitment process is like on the next slide, please. So the first step actually begins when you attend our info session or networking event, and that usually happens sometime in September. After that, you'll want to submit your application online through Handshake, and once all of those applications are in, the CMU recruiting team will select candidates to go on to a first round on-campus interview, and that's usually with 2 members, one senior level banker and then maybe one associate level banker. And this interview is primarily behavioral and meant to really just get to know you as a person and see if you would fit in well with the culture at MUFG. After that first round interview, the next step is the super day. And this year it was virtual, again, because of COVID, but in a normal year, you would be flying out to the office in New York, and you'd have the opportunity to interview with 2 groups. The groups that you interview with, it's actually kind of like a ranking and preference process. So what I mean by that is you'll have the opportunity to work with the CMU recruiting team and express what your preferences are or where your interests might lie. And then they'll work with you to make up your ranking, and then they'll submit them for the Super Day. What I found really special with MUFG's recruitment process was that between that first round and Super Day, members of the CMU recruiting team, so these are alumni or current CMU students in some cases, they'll be reaching out to you and offering advice, support, and really just giving you any tips or tricks that they found helpful when they themselves went through the recruitment process. Because again, we are really rooting for the candidates from CMU who are able to make it onto the Super Day, because it helps build the CMU presence at the bank. And so for those of you who go on to the Super Day, you'll be hearing a lot from members of the team, and they'll be trying to get you as prepared as possible. Of course, after the Super Day, you would hear back fairly quickly with offer decisions, and then you can go from there. So that's all I have for today, but I hope this was helpful. And of course, like Tori and Lynn said, I'd be happy to answer any questions at the end of the panel, or of course, feel free to reach out to me anytime and we can talk one-on-one as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Sonali, for that comprehensive overview. Appreciate that. All right, and last but not least, our CBDC own career peer mentor, Vinay. Take it away.
Thanks for the intro. So yeah, as Matt said, hey everyone, my name is Vinay. I'm a senior at the Tepper School, studying business administration and statistics. And this past summer, I interned at Bank of America in the investment banking division. I was a summer analyst. So just to give some information about Bank of America, if you haven't seen like the little retail bank centers all across. So Bank of America is a company in the financial services industry. It's a huge bank. It has a ton of divisions. It has like investment banking, sales and trading, commercial banking, retail banking. It's the second biggest bank in the entire world. And the mission of the company is, as I put on the slide, at Bank of America, they have a clear purpose to make the financial lives better through the power of every connection. So that's like their mission statement. And so, as I said, my internship was in the investment banking division. And to give some color on the recruitment process, it took a few months. So for me specifically, I can't give too much information on how the COVID recruitment process was, but in a traditional recruitment process, applications will open up July 1st. And then you'll have your first interview anywhere between like 2 to 6 weeks later, and that'll be a hire view interview. So if you don't know what a hire view is, it's basically like a virtual interview. So you're gonna be getting a link sent to you. Your camera is gonna be on, and they're gonna give you 5 questions to answer. You'll have like 3 minutes to prepare. You have like 1 or 2 minutes to prepare and have like 3 minutes to answer the question, right? The hire view will be recording you and your response. You would want to be in a well-lit area, so not where I am right now, but you definitely want your face to be seen so that they can see you, how you're enunciating, hand gestures, etc. It's trying to simulate a real interview. And then after you submit the hire view, assuming things go well, you'd be invited to a Super Day. And so the Super Day process, again, you've heard a lot about like the final rounds from Sonali, Tori, and Lynn, but essentially you're going to the company's office, and you'll have anywhere between, some companies only have 1, but other companies will have multiple. So like 2, 3, or even 4. One company I know that's 6, which is crazy, but you're going to have a lot of interviews back to back. You're going to block out 2-3 hours of your day to go to the office, and you'll be talking with, some of the professionals at the bank, and they're going to be interviewing you, right? But it is a cool experience. You get flown out the day before in a hotel room, and you get to explore new town, new city. So it's definitely a good time. So if we can move on to the next slide, I believe, yeah. So this is where I talk about how my internship was. And so my internship was affected because of COVID, just like everybody else's. I have an unfortunate feeling that this summer might be similar too. So hopefully this can give you some insight into what you could be doing this summer if you wanted to prepare, or just even in general to get a little bit more information on what the internship is. So my internship had 3 main components. So for me specifically, it was a 6-week internship because we didn't work on any live projects or live deals. And live deals, live projects essentially mean like the bank or the group is working on that project, and I just couldn't work on it because the internship was so short. So the 3 things that I did were the fundamental finance and accounting training. So Natalie talked about this as well. She did it with training on the street. I definitely got the name wrong. Bank of America did it with Financial Edge. Again, similar to Sonali, one of like the quote unquote requirements that we're supposed to be doing is networking with professionals in the group. So we would email analysts, associates, VPs, directors, even managed directors, and set up some time to call like 20 to 30 minutes just to get to know them, what they do, what the job looks like, and some of the things, the projects that they have worked on recently, right? And that was really important just to get a better sense of the job because as COVID impacted, we wouldn't be able to work on real life work. And then the last aspect was project work simulating real analyst work. So because we weren't able to work on real like live projects, they created like these case studies for us to work on. And that was super cool. And I'm happy to talk about like, what I did a little bit more in depth in like the Q&A session if you guys have any questions. So some of the skills that you can develop and that can be enhanced in an investment banking internship. So in terms of hard skills, the things that you're probably using the most are Microsoft, PowerPoint, and Excel. There's definitely other softwares you'd be using, whether it's Word or Office, or you can be using some of the financial technologies. So not only mentioned Bloomberg, there's also things out there called like FactSet and other databases too that you can use. In terms of soft skills, written and verbal communication definitely improve a lot, whether it's writing emails, presenting yourself in a professional manner when you're talking to these senior guys or girls, and a professionalism in the workplace, showing up early, on time, being dressed appropriately, things like that. Those are things that you start to take notice of a lot more when you're in the internship, and those type of skills do get developed. And ultimately for me, like the internship, and this has definitely been brought up a lot, the internship is a great way to test whether this like job, field, or bank is a place that you want to be when you go into the real world when you graduate from college, right? And even though it was COVID impacted, I still learned a lot about investment banking, and it made me confident that I would enjoy my experience if I return full time. So hopefully, the main takeaway for you guys is that do these internships because they simulate the kind of work that you could be doing to make money when you graduate. And again, it's a great way to test it out, and if you like it, great. You're gonna have a great time post graduation. So internships are definitely something I recommend. And the plus side is you can make money from these internships, which you can use during the school year. So that's definitely a plus. And so if we move on to the next slide, I think I talk about my advice if you are interested in investment banking, but this is honestly, in my opinion, advice that can be applied across all fields. So my first piece of advice is starting early never hurts. So this is specific for investment banking, which is very unfortunate, or not specific for finance. So like investment banking, sales and trading, application deadlines are junior summer. So for my 2020 summer internship, they can open as early as like March 2019, which is crazy. Like some of these applications open up like a year in advance, which is absurd. And so starting early doesn't hurt, right? So whether that means like, hey, your sophomore winter break, that's a good time to decide whether or not you want to pursue this as a field, right? This is a time to like do the networking calls, get on the phone with people, or hitting up like upperclassmen peers such as ourselves to figure out like, hey, like, is this something I want to do? Starting early doesn't hurt. Some class recommendations are like corporate finance and valuation financial modeling. But at the end of the day, like you're going to have to do some like quote unquote self-studying / research on your own time. That's just how it is. But the payoff is definitely huge by doing that. And your best resources if you want to break into like a finance field, but honestly anything in general. If you want to learn more about the industry, you want to break into the specific company or field, reach out to upperclassmen peers and professionals in the industry, and that's called networking. That's the best way to get help from, because you're getting like first-hand accounts, especially from upperclassmen and peers, right? They're first-hand accounts, and they're going to present it in a way that you'll understand and want to know. Like if you're going to talk to like a professional at the bank, that's great, very informative, but you still need to present yourself in a good way, right? Because you want them to vouch for you. Whereas if you're asking upperclassmen peers, they're going to tell you what you want to hear, because more often than not, they probably had the same questions when they were like trying to get the internship too. So again, that's great those are the best resources, in my opinion, if you want to learn more about the industry and break in. And to wrap it off, if you have any individualized questions that maybe you don't want to ask in an open setting, or if you just have any questions in general, you can reach me at my email there. My Android ID is VGG. Alternatively, as Matthew said, I do work at the CPDC, so you can schedule an appointment with me. And I kind of have to, but I definitely will be helping you to the best of my ability, whether you reach me through email or make an appointment. But other than that, that covers it. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen, and hopefully you've enjoyed everyone's presentations.
Thanks, Vinay. And thank you once again to all of our panelist guests here. So leave some space to absorb some of this great information and content, and want to make sure that we answer some of the questions that you might have. Honestly, these are really the experts. I would like to say that Jen and I have some things to offer as well, but being front and center and getting an internship now, these 4 people right here with you are going to be a great resource. So if anyone would like to get us started in the chat with a question, that would be fabulous. If not, I certainly have my questions, but I really want to reduce my talking time and give you more time. Andre. Okay, yeah, good question about summer experiences during first or second year play a role in getting the internships, and how did that help? Maybe we can take maybe 1 or 2 just so we get, okay, how about you, Lynn and Sonali, and then we'll kind of spread out the love. Lynn, would you take us off?
Sure, definitely. I just thought I could share a little bit about this since I had sort of an atypical experience in the summer after my first year. During that summer, I took a class at a local community college and also worked as a sales associate at a local retail store. So it was a super exciting experience, nothing that you would think that people or supposedly think that you'd have to do during that time. But I did find that my experience, both in my community college class and also working at this retail store, really helped me getting my internship for my sophomore year at PNC because it was a lot of people work. So I was working around with people all the time, which is a skill that you'll need no matter what industry you decide to go into. And also it was a lot of really fun work, which really helped me, I guess, set myself up for what I was expecting in a job or in an internship that I was looking forward to. So I just wanted to put that out there to let you all know that you don't necessarily need to have an internship in the summer to still get a lot of real world experience. I certainly didn't, but still got a lot of valuable experience from my time working in the store.
Thanks, Lynn. Sonali, you want to tackle that one?
Sure. Yeah, I completely echo everything Lynn said. For me, the summer after my freshman year, I was actually back home in Vancouver, Canada, and I was a figure skating coach at my old skating club. And then the summer after my sophomore year, I was interning at a small private equity startup in Pittsburgh. And what I got out of both of those experiences and kind of what helped me land the junior internship with MUFG was being able to work with a lot of different people and being able to work in very different and adaptable situations, just because when you're thrown into investment banking or really any field for the first time, everything is new and you're expected to absorb all that information in. So working in those different environments and working with different types of people just helped set me up to be able to enter in another new work experience and environment.
Thank you. It looks like we have a lot of questions about being a first year student. So maybe we can ask our panelists, in terms of being a first year student and looking for those opportunities, there was a question about, should I not go after the big companies? What advice do you have trying to get an internship your first summer? So I'll combine a couple of these.
Maybe Tori or Vinay, not to put you on the spot, and just to spread out a little bit.
Yeah, I can take that question. So, gonna be honest with you guys, speaking from completely personal experiences, I, as a freshman, did not care and just did not apply to any internships. I went back to my old summer job that I was working during high school just because I knew that would pay well and I just didn't want to think about it. But I am the president of one of the Tepper orgs, AMA, if any of you guys are interested or have heard of it. But what I do help a lot of the freshmen or the underclassmen in that org get internships, and that's mainly through just getting connections. So I would highly recommend joining any of the Tepper clubs because all of them do have a lot of great speaker events, bring in people from companies, and that's where you can start networking and getting those internships because like all the panelists have mentioned, networking and your connections are really important. And it's always a lot easier to have someone like give you an interview or like recommend you to a person who can if there's some personal connection there. And just utilizing CMU's network is a great way to get started.
Thanks, Tori. Vinay, as a career peer mentor too, sometimes you might have captured some questions from others that have maybe sparked some inspiration. What kinds of thoughts did you have about that first year? Because it really is, honestly, it's terrifying, right? You hear about all these amazing internships and you think, oh my gosh, nobody's picking me. What do you think about alternatives to internships or any reflections that you might have there?
Yeah, I think I could talk about a reflection because when you were like, oh, like all these people are getting these crazy internships, what about me? That's definitely how I felt for sure. I'm sure other people have felt like that too. I think I want to preface it first by saying like, I mean, internships are great. And I mean, if you're here, it's because you want to get one, right? But it's okay if you don't have like an internship freshman summer, like working a summer job and making money or doing like going back to the things you did in high school and like being like a coach, right? Like, oh, those are all things that I personally would like recommend doing, right? Like, so I did so maybe it's a little hypocritical because I did an internship my freshman summer, but it was unpaid and I would rather have made money than do that. But that's going off topic, right? So when it comes to getting an internship, if that's the opportunity you want to pursue, what I'd say is cast a wide net. And what that means is like apply to, the small and big companies. I'll be honest, like, I don't know if you want to hear it, but I'll be honest. If you apply to a big company in like a kind of like competitive field, quote unquote competitive field, then there's a solid chance that, they might not like accept you, right? Like that just, it is what it is. Like if I applied to like the Bank of America investment banking division as a freshman, no one, I mean, I would bet money that I would not have gotten accepted, right? But that shouldn't prevent you. A lot of these big companies have like programs for freshmen and sophomores. You just have to look it up. Like if you search up like Google, right? They have like freshman programs or diversity programs targeted at freshmen and sophomores. And, they're looking for freshmen and sophomores. So those are definitely programs to check out. I think one of the questions in chat were like, oh, how can I find them? Just search up on Google, like freshman internship programs, big company. That's definitely not the keywords to put in, but you'll probably get the things that you're looking for. But going back to like the idea of casting a wide net, apply, to those big and small companies. When I was a freshman, I stayed away from the big companies because I knew for like whatever fields I want to get to, they probably wouldn't take me. Again, that shouldn't discourage you from applying, but that was personally my thought process. And I applied to like a bunch of like small, like random companies. I looked on Handshake, internships.com, Indeed.com, Glassdoor. And because I live in New Jersey, I applied to like a bunch of internships in like the New Jersey area since I can drive there, and New York City since I could like make the commute, right? And I was super lucky that I was able to get like a part-time internship in my hometown for marketing. So I only had to drive 20 minutes to get there, and I worked there 2 days a week. But I could put that down on my resume, right? Which was awesome. And so like my taking a step back and summarizing my advice if you want to get an internship freshman summer is like, don't be discouraged, cast a wide net. If you have to apply to a lot of internships, you have to apply to a lot of internships. But if that's something you want, you definitely can. And I also recommend like asking like upperclassmen, like go on LinkedIn and see some of the upperclassmen from Tepper or whatever schools you're in and see what they did, right? That's exactly what I did and how I was able to find that company. Because I was casting a wide net. I didn't have a specific company in mind. I saw like, oh, this upperclassman from Tepper who for some reason, not for some reason, a lot of people from New Jersey at CMU, but they were around there. And I saw this company. I said, oh, cool. Let me send in an application. And like literally within the next week, they responded. I got on the phone with them and they're like, cool, like it's going to be unpaid, but if you want it, like the opportunity is yours, right? And the only reason why I found that out is because someone from Tepper who was a year older than me worked there, and it all worked out. So definitely keep your mind open, cast a wide net. And if you need like quote unquote inspiration on where to apply, look at to where other people, whether it's at CMU or even your schools, like the schools in your home state where those kids apply to kind of get some inspiration for there.
I would add to that too, you can go to our website, which is cmu.edu/career, and go to the outcomes tab, and we have information there on where other students have interned, just to give you a little bit more inspiration. In addition to that, to echo some of Vinay's comments, I really would encourage students to think about maybe the types of companies or organizations that need some help over the summer. So I think with big companies, the challenge there is trying to stand out as a younger student without a lot of experience. But if you think a little bit broadly and maybe look at startups or nonprofits where you could do a business role, or even local government or city government or something like that, I think there are always opportunities that you could consider if the ultimate goal is to get some experience. And Tori, I love that you said that you didn't really want to get an internship the first summer, because I think it's different for every person, right? So your goal for the summer might be to take some courses, or it could be to, really you're in that situation where you need to save some money. So I think a lot of the things that happen are completely good options and understandable options.
Other questions that any of these things are raising with you in the audience? I think we've touched on the ones that are currently there. Can I ask one to anyone who wants to say, several of you, maybe all of you, said that internships helped you, decide what you liked. How did that work? Was there like a moment that it did, or did you kind of preview going in, like, ooh, I'm going to like this internship, and it confirmed it, or didn't confirm it? Walk us through a little bit, like how you can actively, as an intern, use it as career exploration if you're wanting to do that.
I can take that question. Oh,
you go ahead.
Okay. So for me personally, when I say like internships help me find out what I like, honestly, I'd say like 80% of that was more finding out what I don't like. Like, honestly, going in like as a freshman, no work experience, I didn't know what I liked about a company. Like, I didn't know what industry I wanted to do. I didn't know what field, like what role or anything. So I just wanted to try everything. And to give an example, no offense, Lynn, but I did a wealth management internship and I absolutely hated it. And I wouldn't have known that unless I had done that internship. Like, I went in and I realized that that corporate structure with like limited like creativity, or at least for the firm that I was in, I don't know about PNC, but that just wasn't for me. So that's why the following summer I decided to do something that I would think was more fun, which is how I ended up at the NFL. So I personally would say it's more about just trying everything and figuring out what you like and don't like. And honestly, in my opinion, finding out what you don't like is a little bit more important than finding out what you do like. So hope that helped.
Thanks. Lynn, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, well, basically echoing everything Tori said right there. Completely agree that it was more so figuring out what I didn't like about something, and so I could take that experience and move forward and figuring out, or I guess narrowing it down more to what I do like and what I do want to do. I also had a similar experience to Tori, where wealth management I thought would be the perfect fit for me, given my background in both business and decision science, sort of combining that people-friendly atmosphere that I really like. But when I got to my internship experience, it just wasn't exactly everything that I was looking for, and I realized I wanted something a bit more detail-oriented than what I had gotten. Still not to discourage anyone from doing wealth management. It's still such a great industry to be in, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. And it really helped me figure out, what do I want to do? Who else could I talk to in the bank that maybe has a similar experience or has a different idea of what might appeal to me, or Are there any other CMU students who had a similar experience to me? I guess Tori did. And what did they end up doing with all of that stuff? So just by talking to a bunch of different people, I was able to see if there was anything else out there for me. And I was able to find a lot of different industries that I thought would be a good fit.
We have about 5 minutes left, so there's one more question in the chat, and it's about how did you develop the skills that you needed for the internships? Are there good resources for learning more about those or practicing those?
I think it depends on the field or the industry, but I think that's the beauty of going to CMU. You'll, for better or for worse, you're gonna learn these skills at school, right? So like, suppose you want to go into like investment banking or sales and trading, right? You're gonna need to have an understanding of finance, right? You'll learn about that in your classes. So like if you want to learn about Excel, if you're a business major, there's a class called business computing that'll teach you about Excel. The internship also gives you Excel training too. And you can take a lot of classes at CMU to gain like that wide skill set. So what I would say is like, when you're applying like to all these internships, like you'll see like, oh, these are the skills required. And it looks kind of daunting, right? They'll be like, oh, like data analysis, right? It's super broad. It could be something super complicated, or it could be something that could be simple, right? But you'll gain the resources in your time at CMU, and hit up the CPDC. They'll have a bunch of resources too. That just plug in the CPDC. But honestly, like don't sweat it. Like you will gain the skills you'll need over time. I feel like that's one thing that you don't need to be like as pressured about. But again, if you want to look at those resources, again, Google, look at the fields and industries, like hit us up, figure out like, hey, what are some of the things I need to learn? And then look at the CMU course catalog and see like, hey, like, can any of these classes help me graduate? Can anyone help me learn new things? And those are the classes that you should try to take if you can.
We got one more question that snuck in, and it's about networking. So for those of you that did some networking, did you do any sort of cold calling or emailing? Vinay, I know you did. What about anybody else? Can you speak to that experience?
I definitely use LinkedIn as a resource. Not only, as Vinay mentioned, just reaching out to upperclassmen on LinkedIn or even just on email or anything else. I know I reached out to Vinay on LinkedIn, and he was a really big help with everything. But LinkedIn was a really great source. I know a lot of clubs, as Tori mentioned, also keep alumni databases with their email addresses. So that's something I did, just cold emailing different alumni. I find that having that CMU connection really makes people want to help you out in different ways. I know looking forward, if I were a CMU alum, I'd really want to help out any other student who's interested in an industry that I'm looking forward to. So that was something that was really helpful for me, just talking to all these different people and getting different names of others I could speak to. That really helped as well.
Vinay, do you want to comment on this? Because I know that you did a lot of cold emailing, maybe just giving people an idea of how many, I don't know an exact number, but just a general overview or of that process and how many people you had to reach out to.
Yeah, sure. I could definitely give my insight on that. I don't know how many people I reached out to. So sorry about that. But again, it's super proportional to like, oh, like how many banks you want to, or how many companies you want to reach out to, right? Like I kind of casted a wide net with like, I just wanted like an internship in the field. So like I hit up like all like the major banks, right? So you can say like, oh, like I network within 10 banks, and then however many calls I could do and / like felt like doing, or is like the number of calls I did. So like give process, or to give some like insight into networking, I'd say the biggest barrier to networking is that it feels super daunting to like hit up someone random or hit up someone that's working. Like even someone that's like 1 year older than me, who graduates working the company. For some reason, I think they're like super mature. They're an adult when they're probably not. But it just seems super daunting to like hit up someone random. And the reality is that like a lot of people want to help, right? Like Lynn hasn't even graduated yet, and she's already saying like, I want to help people when I graduate if they contact me, right? And that's how a lot of people feel. And also the reality is like that no one doesn't like to not talk about themselves, right? Because that's basically the networking call. They're talking about themselves, they're talking about the work that they do, how they got here, and they know that you as a caller value that, right? Because that's why you're calling them in the first place. You're using the information that they give you to make a decision, right? So who doesn't want to talk about themselves to someone and help out, right? So people want to do these calls if they're free, right? If they're free, they want to do these calls and they want to help out. So, I mean, hopefully with that kind of information that I'm giving, hopefully that kind of reduces like that barrier for you guys to network with people, but it is still daunting, I get it. But if you want to get into like these like industries where there's like way too many people applying, like I'll tell you, like for Goldman Sachs, they had like 30, they had too many, more 30,000 is a number that comes to my mind, but it could be way larger than that, right? That's a bunch of people. So if you want to stand out, you do have to network. And so the process for that at a high level is basically you go on LinkedIn, right? And you search up that company and then you look at the employees and like there's a bunch of filters there and you put in like Carnegie Mellon, right? And you can see, oh, who are the Carnegie Mellon alumni there? And then you can, send them like a LinkedIn message or you can send them an email. I'd say if you want to get more in depth in networking, just like send me an email so I can tell you because I don't want to take up too much time. But you're going to send them an email to whoever you want to reach out to and say like, hey, like introduce yourself, talk a little bit about why you want to have the call. And then again, like kind of end out the email saying, hey, like if you're free, great, let me know, blah, 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 right? Hopefully they respond. And then you're going to go send emails back and forth to schedule that call. And then once you schedule that call, you call them. And then again, like the normal pleasantries when you meet someone new. And then you're gonna ask them the questions you want to ask, right? Whether it's like, hey, like tell me about the company. Why'd you want to go into this industry? Why this company? What's some of the things that you worked on during whether you worked at, whether you did the internship, or what are some of the things you're working on now, right? Just to learn a little bit more about the industry. Ask them for their advice, right? Like if you were recruiting, if you wanted to get an internship in this industry, what would you recommend doing, right? Which is kind of what we're doing to you guys right now. You can ask these people you're networking with too. And through that, you've quote unquote established a relationship with these people. And then, when it comes time to like submitting an application, you submit your resume and then you reach out to the people you network and say, hey, remember me? Don't say remember, but say like, hey, like I'm applying to this internship at the company. Like, can you pass my resume along to HR? And what that does is that out of all like the 10,000, hopefully it's not that many, but out of the huge pile of resumes that they have, your resume is going to be on top. There's going to be like a flag or an asterisk or whatever indicating that your resume should be read because there's someone within the company vouching for you. And that's why networking is so important because it can give you an edge. It's not like some like hard skill edge where you know how to program better than someone else. You have X, Y, Z skills. It's about the relationships that you have and the people that are going to vouch for you. And that's a competitive advantage that you can get without needing to be like the best candidate out there, right? It's about putting the right foot forward and putting yourself in the appropriate position. So that's why you should network.
Thank you. Well, I think we're about out of time. I did want to just add a quick comment to that, which is the CBDC is currently running a program to help students get started in networking, and that's called Tartan Talks. You can find some more information about it on our website. Matthew, do you want to finish us off?
Sure. Well, I just want to thank all of our panelists again here for both volunteering, doing such a great job on your presentations, and then speaking with us about your experiences. Please do, if you feel comfortable, please do reach out. Their offer of help and assistance is a sincere one, and I know they've really appreciated others who have done so. So please use your friends and maybe future colleagues as resources for you. Thank you so much also to everyone here for your participation, and hope to see you at other events that we have, and good luck when we start our semester with all that as well. So thanks once again, folks. Appreciate it.